Let me tell you something about house music. It's not just a groove. House is a feeling. And when you feel it, you will understand that house music is freedom. Freedom to be who you want to be. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter where you come from. But in my house,
What up, everybody? How we doing this morning? If you can like the video, I'd appreciate it. Get it up to 100 likes. Oki, what's up? Good morning. Yona, Conway, Nico, Crazy Yeti, Lee, Igor, Marius, Wolf, Tom, Tal, TC, Akbar. What up, everybody? Hope you're all having a good morning. Good morning. If you can like the video, I appreciate it. Hope you're all having a good morning on CPI. We'll get it started here once it gets to 100 likes. I know everybody's in a rush to do something. I know. Just give it another minute here, and then I'll go ahead and start the video. Should be probably about 100 likes by then.
Into my car, didn't get very far.
Alright, we're gonna go ahead and start the video. You guys can see the screen here, right? I need to switch my music out here. Morning, Harris. Hope you're having a good morning. You guys can like, share the video, get it out there. I appreciate it. Remember, this is the last week, so we got 3 more days here, and I'm out publicly. Just to go over the chat, big rollout. Ionis, Ding T, State Tega, no I did not. Paper Street, Magician, or Magic, good to see ya. Everybody can see the screen here, right? Guten Morgen. All right, so we had CPI this morning about an hour ago or so. Truthfully, I'm inside of a trade currently. It's not on my live account. It's just on a challenge account. And more or less, it's, I'm not going to speak about it, but ICT is just kind of running us through some drills on CPI. So I was just kind of having fun with it. No, don't panic. Don't freak out. If you're wondering where it is, it's inside of this inversion. It's simply just because ICT was running us through some drills. So it's no big deal. Like, if you're on a challenge account, there's times where you can just kind of have fun with it. I really don't want to say anything because it's going to pressure people to do something. Don't do anything, okay? Don't be stupid. Overall, that's illegal. CPI, as we talked about yesterday, what I would like to see today is I would like to see if we'd want to gravitate towards the relative equal lows in here. That would be ideal. That would be an ideal situation. But, of course, things could change, and it's the reason why I like waiting for the silver bullet, and I like waiting for the overall time to be placed, and that way we can figure out what's really going on here. You can even see through the opening range. I mean, what would you have traded throughout CPI? I mean, you could have traded this in here. ICT actually went short on that. And he was also inside of this inversion as well. So that's currently where we're at. But do I believe it's going to work out? Probably not. And that's the reason why I don't like trading before the open nor the silver bullet. It rarely is efficient for me. So, again, it's on a challenge account. I'm not really too concerned with it. Good morning, Lords. I'm doing well, brother. Let's look at the daily time frame in here. Let's just get an overall macro perspective of what's going on. So we're stuck kind of in a range in here. And we talked about last night, at least on the daily log, how this weekly bullish order block is still the parent. So I'm not letting, it's not that I'm not bearish and I don't see the sell side liquidity, but I have to keep in mind that this is the parent, right? This is the parent PD array. And if we're going to leave the relative equal lows, if those are going to be left, that is mainly probably due to this bullish order block in here, which is the parent, right? It oversees everything else on the lower time frame. So, CJ, how do you know when sell side liquidity is going to be left? How do you know, we're not going to take those out? Well, if there's a higher time frame parent order block in this instance, and we see the relative equal lows in here, if we're residing in that, we may want to leave it. Depends on other things, dollar index, S&P confluences, etc., etc. So today, I mean, ideally, I don't see this thing just popping up higher. I mean, I'm on the same boat as ICT as far as what he's looking at. I would like for price to gravitate lower and want to gravitate towards the sell side. We'll see what price looks like by the time we get into the silver bullet. Things may change. Things may look different. So it's the reason why waiting for time is important and seeing how all that plays out. That makes sense, everybody. I mean, right now it's a little bit of a sloppy range with CPI. I'm just curious to see when we dig into lower time frames. I'll show you really where price wants to gravitate towards. If you're just tuning in, I appreciate it if you'd like the video. It really helps out the stream. So I'm just going to mark a few things up here. Give me a second. So we're inside of the hourly imbalance here. Extend that out to your right. So we drove up into that on CPI. I mean, the delivery is sloppy. We're about to be stopped out on this position here with ICT. Well, it's not his position, but of course it's always yours. But again, it's the main reason why I don't ever trade before the open. I mean, it's just hilarious how many times that if I do so, it doesn't work. Again, I understand if you're doing a challenge account, there's rules and things you can bend. I'm not saying you should be out there gambling, but I know in a challenge account, I'm just having a little less strict rules with it. It doesn't matter algo trading. Again, I'm only saying that because I'm transparent. I'm a transparent person. So if you see something highlighted up over here in a second, then you understand it. I could very well just not tell you that. But so there was that. I don't know if you heard it or not. I'll go over it and what he was looking at overall. But that was the open here. The opening range is sloppy as hell. I mean, CPI and what we have so far. So I'm curious to see what happens today. I mean, in here, if you just look at it, we've taken out sell side, gravitated higher, we dropped lower. It's inside of, see, this is the reason why I don't even want to mention things. It's inside of our own private group that I'm a charter member. I paid for this, so thank you, Will. It's like, you just want to say things to be transparent, but yet just too many questions. Hello, Digital Nomad. Bree, what's up? Yeah, DXY is a bit confusing as well. That's a confusing thing to analyze right now. Main reason is because I can't tell if we want to gravitate higher or lower on dollar index. And that's going to be a huge confluence as far as what we're looking at on NQ today. Let me pop down to the 5-minute here. Like I said, I do all my annotations on this one, and I forget that this one is going to be blank. So when I come into the stream, I have to remark up everything on this chart. There's just nothing, like if I got into my head and what I would particularly like, I would like lower prices. Because there's nothing higher that I really particularly like. Like when we look at the premium arrays above and the things that are above us, it's just not as good. When you look at the liquidity, it's not as crisp or clean as the sell side. Yeah, I mean, inside of the private forum, I will be live streaming. Yeah, Tal. So we dug up right off the open into this premium civvy here. So what do we do with CPI? We dropped off lower. Displaced higher, taking out buy side. We've dropped lower premium civvy here. This is the current new week opening gap resting there. I want to see, mark out the wick in here. Mark out the CE. So wicks are gaps. You want to mark them out, mark out that in time. This is one of those days where if I saw a setup happening within the macro before the silver bullet, like the macro that happens at 950 to 1010, that's something I'd participate in. Why? Because I'd want to be inside of this move that's wanting to drop lower. I'm fairly convinced we're going to the sell side. It's not difficult to see that in my eyes. This is a new day opening gap. The orange line, that's a current old, or that's an old new week opening gap down here. So this is what I'm doing. I'm going through time frames. If you look at ES is making a higher high, which is a bit. Oh, I'm sorry. Stupid me. That is not the right symbol. I have dollar index on. Okay, never mind. Disregard what I just said. Yeah, they all fairly look in sync when I'm talking about ES, YM, and NQ. I want to see if we can gravitate to the sell side here. Morning, Luke. Yep, per usual. But we had some chatters in here saying that I should have been trading, and all I do is talk, but I'm sure they had fun in yesterday's price action. I'm sure that was a joy to be in. So if you extend out that 15-minute reclaimed, stabbed right up into the CE, taking out buy side, dropping lower. So from that dealing range high down to the low, turning up into a premium, basically optimal trade entry, and then selling off. This will probably be as a breakaway gap if I had to anticipate it. Why? Because of the momentum and the speed that we're getting, especially right off the open time. I probably anticipate that to be a breakaway. Yapis. Look at all the sell side built up from yesterday. There's a reason why I'm leaning on that. I don't. There's again, if we talk about making an argument, making a court case, that analogy that I draw, I mean, what can you see for higher prices? I don't see that. There's no argument for it. To me, it's clearly one-sided. Things to me are clearly bearish. So I'm looking at the sell side as what I'm referring to. The draw is easy. It's a magnet that's pulling price towards it. So to me, all you have to do is plug and play with a model and find out, where you can enter into it. I'm not fearful. We just, regardless of things sells off, the usual protocol here. We're waiting for time. I bet you a lot of money by the silver bullet. There'll probably be an entry. They just want to have fun like you, I think. Sure. So that orange line, that orange shade, jeez, oh my, is that loud? The orange shaded line is the new day opening gap. My actual platform makes the loudest bell noise. No, Luke. That's not correct. That's not correct in terms. You can't utilize. I mean, I don't. Never seen ICT do it. It's only really refers to Forex. That said, you mature and you grow up as a trader, and that's why like even there's a lot of misinformation that not necessarily I taught. I just was like out there doing, and it's not that wasn't correct. You can't use central bank dealing ranges on index futures. You can't. Nor do you really want to utilize that. If you looked at my old content, my charts look a lot different. The way I spoke is a lot different. You just mature and you get more experience as you go. But it's just funny to look back and like even back then I thought I was amazing, but now I look at that and I kind of cringe. I'm like, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I mean, if you're already positioned in before the open, or at the open. I mean, as far as what ICT was referring to, I want to pull up. I can't, but I want to pull up the group just to see what the hell he's talking about. Sometimes, again, even with ICT, even being I try to remember. I mean, I don't like looking at the things he says even within a session. And it's not that he hasn't talked a lot recently. It's just today he's been active. But as far as overall, I mean, even myself, like if you're learning, the main point is like when you're trying to trade with somebody else talking or trying to refer to certain levels, I mean, it's just not good because you can never tune into yourself. You can never tune into your own system, your own model, your own thoughts, your own feelings. Like you're always just relying on somebody else. So at one point or another, you have to break away from that mentor, that person, and start doing this on your own and referring to everything that person has taught you and just be able to do it yourself. Being able to self-efficiently do this. But of course, that's at the right timing when you feel comfortable to do so. But even me, if I pay attention to him, it will mess up the things that I particularly have set for myself within his own concepts. So that he even trades differently, obviously, than me or all of us. So we're all personal people. Like that's something I don't think most people understand when it comes to trading. Even people that come in here and say I talk a lot or whatever, it's like we're all very personal when it comes to our models and the things we look for. So it's like you may find a setup that day, you may think it's high probability, but obviously I don't. I don't find that a high probability day or model or whatever it is. Do you still pay? No, I paid my fee 2 years ago. Lifestyle, I mean, it's private. So I want to see in here. This new day opening gap should lend support to drop price lower. At least my personal opinion. I know most people are sitting here like, please retrace so I can get an entry. I believe those are going to stay open. If not, it's fine. What does it mean by CE as a gap? Wicks, specifically the CE, so the 50%, the equilibrium of wicks, will act as a gap. So envision, like on this wick here, you mark out the 50% of it. That will act as some type of gap, like a fair value gap in a sense. You can use it as a target. You can utilize it as just something for price to gravitate towards. If it's beneath you and you're shorting, I'm not looking at the low directly on a wick. I'm looking at the CE. I'm looking at the quadrants of it because if you go on lower time frames, there may be something in there. Will you share the execution? No, I mean, again, that's not a challenge account. Everything on my live account, I've been 100% transparent. I've never hid anything away from any of you. But it's not a challenge account. Like, again, it's a challenge. I particularly don't give a shit. Again, I believe that new day opening gap is going to obviously lend support for us to drop in a sell side here. So what's underneath that wick, the data low, CPI's data low? Well, we have relative equal lows in here. All that sell side that was built up yesterday, right here, that is going to want to be targeted. Look at the difference in my voice and the conviction that I have versus yesterday. You have to understand the days, the profiles, the templates, the things that are laid out for you. Like, look at what I was saying yesterday. I'm not interested. I don't want to be trading. There's nothing in here. Versus today, where I'm telling you, hey, look here, price is going here. The conviction. There's a huge difference in distinguish, and that's not because I'm overly confident. It's because I can see with clear logic that today is something where it is tradable. There is something in here for price to move. We're coming off of CPI. We're coming off of volatility. There's clear draws in liquidity. There's things that are aligning. But there's a difference between yesterday and today. Yesterday, there's nothing. I'm not going to play around in the mud and just roll around like a pig and lose all my money. That's stupid. But coming in today, yeah, I want to capitalize on something like today. Cody, yep. Everybody shitting on me yesterday for not trading yesterday. I hope you had fun. I hope you, like, people have no idea what they're talking about. It's hilarious. Yeah, I saw your question. I'm just going to flash it on screen because I don't want to take up too much time. So just pause the video. So this sell side's been tagged. Anytime you make a new low, like I'm just saying if you were in a position or whatever, you take off partials underneath every single new equity low. You're running down equity. Yeah, sure, Bert. Well, I'm a human, man. Until you're in this position and until you do this and you've done this for 2 months straight, I mean, I just wouldn't comment on that. Nick, I mean, I may highlight it, I may teach on it, but I probably will not trade it. That's a new day opening gap, Julian. Blue is new week opening gap, a previous new week opening gap. What is ES right now? ES is the sixth sister, right? It has not yet made the low that NQ is making. Is that a bullish S&T? No, not in my eyes, because ES would want to follow suit with NQ. I still believe NQ has more room to go, so ES would want to follow suit with it. Yep, Marcel, every day. Sloth, no. If let's say I got stopped out and price moved to all my targets, guess what? I know that tomorrow this stuff still works. The next day it's still going to work. The next week it's still going to work. The next month it's still going to work. Next year it's still going to work. There's still going to be just as a clean setup next week, next month, next year. Once you realize that, you stop tilting. You stop getting so upset. And I get it. I'm not saying that I haven't been there before, because trust me, I have. But when you mature and you understand that, hey man, all this stuff repeats all the time. For the most part, every single day. So there's no reason to be fearful. I mean, think about all the days that you were so mad, so upset the price moved and you missed a move. Well, guess what? Here's another setup that's happening today. It repeats. There's nothing to be fearful about. There's nothing to be mad at. There's nothing particularly in here. Even, again, if I'm following the rule sets, there's nothing in here. Even yet, I'm waiting for the silver bullet. Seeing price move like this before the silver bullet, it makes you upset. It makes you like, man, like, what's the point of the silver bullet shit? I don't get it. Excuse my language. But, like, I understand, without a doubt, probably within the silver bullet, there's probably going to be an entry. So I don't fear when price is moving like this. I don't sit here and worry and get pissed that price is hitting targets before my time zone. Even if it does, well, guess what? tomorrow it's still going to repeat. Like, I know it's regurgitating, it's the same shit over and over again, but it's just the truth. No, I would not take a long. If the narrative is bearish and we're seeking lower prices and the draw on liquidity is lower, then I'm not going to reverse this. There's no reason for price to gravitate higher, and I'm not going to be reversing what the overall narrative is. I want to stay in sync with it. I want to just capture shorts. Exactly, Tom. I mean, everybody's itching. Everybody's, you have to think about the open as well. I wouldn't be surprised if we have some type of deeper retracement going into the silver bullet, because everybody's fearful right now. Silver bullet macro, Tom Verga. Yeah. ADE, yeah, there's a latency. So it's like probably 10 to 30 to maybe a minute delay. Luke, I discussed that at the beginning of the week. I mean, or I discussed at the beginning of the video. I mean, it can hold, but to me, again, the sell side is what price is wanting to seek. That is the overall draw on liquidity. It's a strong draw on liquidity. It's a major pool of liquidity. If it was just a singular low or something that was just resting there, then that would be different. But it's a large sell side liquidity pool. Where would you place a stop loss if now retracing a premium off of a short opportunity? I mean, it just depends where I'd want to enter into it. There's nothing in here that I'd be entering off of. Anytime you make a new low, anytime you take out a short-term low, it gives price a relief to possibly, doesn't always, it can return into a short-term premium. It doesn't have to. It could just continuously propel lower. So I have to determine that and decipher as the analyst, okay, does price want to return into a short-term premium? Do I want to elect to wait? Do I want to draw the line in the sand? Or is it going to leave those as breakaway gaps? And is it going to want to drop lower without that deeper retracement? That's kind of the analyst in you. You have to decipher that and determine it. Particularly, I don't like shorting after you've taken out a short-term low. Most of the time, it does give you some short-term retracement. So it's just up to you what you want to do. And that's you as the analyst, the person talking. You have to figure out, all right, what is the analyst saying? To me, it's just, again, I'm lining it with time, which is saying sit still. I don't particularly find these as a good shorting opportunity. These are not really good for value gaps in a sense. Said, how do you add patience and discipline? Just time and experience, listening to somebody else. I mean, you can't buy it. Well, think about this accident. Why would it want to do that? Why would it go for buy side? We've already taken out buy side liquidity. We've already displaced off of a bearish inefficiency and dropped lower. So is there a particular reason, just because you've taken out sell side? This is the misconception that people have with the 2022 model, is people, as soon as sell side's taken, they, or whatever it is, the opposite to the narrative, they immediately think it's going to just reverse. That's not true. If the narrative is bearish, it's going to stay in line with it. If it's seeking lower prices, if it's spooling towards sell side, it's going to continuously seek that. It's not going to just reverse and go for buy side. Why would it need to do that? If buy side's already been taken, then there's no particular reason for price to do so. The work's already been done. Pay attention to the side that's been taken versus hasn't, and that's going to give you a story. If it's already taken one side, and the narrative is bearish, it's seeking lower prices, it wouldn't need to come all the way back up here to take buy side. The logic isn't there. As I mentioned before, yes, there may be a short-term premium retracement. So from this dealing range high up from the opening high down to this current dealing range low. If you drag that, equilibrium is sitting here inside of that dealing range. It may want to retrace up in that premium before selling off. That's what I'd be electing to wait for. I'm not trying to sell down here in this discount. Jabber's one step ahead of you. Damn, ICT. Oh, man made $4 today. All the people wondering about his Robins Cup. I think he's doing all right. I love to see it. I can't wait for the next couple months. He's going to come out of nowhere and people are going to be like, oh my goodness. That is such a Twitter question, and I don't mean to be rude, but that's just fancy words. All of that is, I don't even know what that even means. Do you use IPDA dynamic dealing range from change of state of delivery high to low? That's a bunch of nonsense. I don't mean to be rude, sincerely, but keep it simple, my friend. No, not 44. Exactly, Nathan. He's a master troll. It's the name ICT gave in 2021. Yeah, I know. It's again, I don't. From my perspective, it just sounds. It's just too much. Just keep it simple. If I'm looking at a dealing range, I'm looking at a dealing range. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to decipher in here as we move into silver bullet, is it going to sell off? I could be wrong, right? Oh no. But does that mean that I took a trade on it and I'm a bad analyst? Nope. Rodrigo, thank you. I know I get distracted sometimes. I know people have mentioned it like 4 times. I know it's been closed because somebody said it was beneath us. It's one of these instances where, okay, we closed the RTH gap today, right? But if you've got underneath it and we're back into, I know there's a lot on here. Particularly it's this orange shaded. So from here to here. That's the RTH gap, and I'll move it back. That's the RTH gap. If you close it and you get underneath it, and your bias is still short, and you move back up into the RTH gap, it's much like a inversion fair value gap where you can utilize it as resistance, right? You're just reclaiming that. So if something's in that RTH gap that's in confluence with it, you can utilize it. No, ICT is not live. It is a private group thing. Man, I just want to mention it just to have fun, but it's people start freaking out. So if you look at NQ made a lower low while ES failed to make a lower low in here, and YM has failed to make a lower low. So that is a bullish SMT. I'm just going to go into the silver bullet, trying to determine are we going to seek higher prices or lower prices. So even though my bias was short, and that's what I was looking for, it's, oh no, I can change that. Again, time does a lot of the heavy lifting for you if you just let time do the work for you. That's why even during the macro, like unless I see something that's super, super clear coming into the macro before the silver bullet, then I would take it. But I mean, overall, I'm waiting for the silver bullet. This is where a lot of people, what we just discussed earlier is, somebody asked me, do I feel tilted that price was tearing off lower and going to the targets I was outlining? No, because I understand that things can switch on a dime, and going to silver bullet, things have completely changed around. So emotions about the market that's constantly changing, I understand it, trust me, but things change so often that it's very rarely where I would get tilted or upset about something. So observe the lows in here between NQ, ES, and YM. As I mentioned before, SMT is a confluence, but it does tip its hand to you that something is happening. Something is not correlated. Something is obviously, SMT is going to always happen first. It will always be the first indication, but that does not mean that you automatically jump on it. You have to wait for confluence as something to tell you that that is correct. That's what price is trying to seek. Overall, I mean, looking for higher prices in here still doesn't make the absolute most sense. Even though we've gravitated higher and we're kind of moving above these SIBIs, I mean, just look at the profile so far for the day. We've taken out buy side, we've dropped lower, taking out sell side. I mean, look at the hourly profile as well. That's why I keep panning out to the higher time frames. If you get stuck on this 1 minute, yeah, you're gonna take a lot of losses. It's pretty sloppy, the delivery so far. Like, look at the wicks, the closures of it. That's telling you something. I mean, we may have a day of seek and destroy and consolidation today. We may have that. So I have to be careful of that. I have to be in the understanding that, well, it could do that today. And if it does, and I have to sit out another day, then so be it. Jason, yeah, for all those tuning in, I appreciate if you would like the video. We're only at 200 likes. Good morning, M7. I don't think you're the actual M7, right? Again, this is just a more or less experienced teaching point, but if I look at the 15-minute time frame, I had a visualized price. I can't just see this thing ripping higher, right? That just, logically, that doesn't make any sense. Just looking at the formation, the candlestick patterns, I mean, it could. It just, to me, experience tells me that's not really logical to look for. Jabbers, I mean, it's a little bit difficult, to be honest with you. I think the daily time frame is not super clear. I haven't taken a look at dollar index, but that's what I will do. Currently, dollar index has been a little bit conflicting to this idea, which I believe when I last checked it was CPI was moving higher. Things could have changed. So if dollar index is moving higher, right? If dollar index is gravitating higher, what does that mean for us? Well, I can't particularly I can't be very stubborn on the idea of looking for longs on NQ. If my overall bias is short on NQ and I'm looking for lower prices, then I have dollar index gravitating higher. Well, I kind of have to sit and wait for NQ to prove that to me. I'm not just going to jump for the long scenario. That doesn't make too much sense. I got to pop out the chat here. A00. This is just for me as a streamer. It would be great if you changed your username. Every time I look at your I think you're putting a bunch of question marks. And sell side expansion profile, it shouldn't target that buy side, but if it's going to gravitate rate. I mean, it's seeking a short profile, yeah, but we've already taken out buy side in here. Again, as I just mentioned, if dollar index is gravitating higher, we saw this last week where everybody was right off the open chasing shorts on NQ. I stayed on the sidelines. I drew the line in the sand saying dollar index is moving lower. I have to elect to wait for that. And eventually NQ popped off higher. So I think it's one of those instances. The delivery is just a little sloppy. Over leveraged trader, exactly. Aid. Thank you. Do you trade it outside of the silver bullet window? Rarely ever, no. Price action always respects the first 8:30 or 9:30 open. Fair value gap, yeah. It's oh, this is the yeah, this is the 1 hour before. And I know just from public sentiment, looking at the chat, like there's days where it's even last week when I took a trade, a lot of people were calling up, down, this, that all the time. And for me, that particularly tells me to sit still. When I just look at the chat and I look at public sentiment, I mean, for the most part, it tells me to sit still. Sorry for the username. You can call me. All right, I'm gonna call you AJ because your name is A. Do you have any rules regarding stop loss trailing? Yeah, I mean, if you watch some of my executions, you'll see what I do. Sometimes it's a little bit different depending on the position, where my entry is to targets, etc. It's a little bit different. How do you look at public sentiment? Just looking at the chat, just seeing what they're saying. I know when the chat's freaking out, like even my chat, and they're calling up, down, sideways, it's it's telling me something. So we do have relative equal highs resting here. So again, zoom back out to these higher time frames. If you get stuck, it's probably because you're just focusing on a 1 minute. You got to pull yourself out of it. So far, overall, this has been pretty manipulated, especially if we tag buy side. I mean, we've ran sell side, buy side, sell side, run for buy side. I mean, that's both ways 2 times. And what's going to help you kind of keep out of all that is time. Oh, I'm on the March contract. So there's an inefficiency in here with buy side resting above us. I just don't have a lot of conviction of this thing going higher. I could be dead wrong. I could be incorrect. I don't have a huge conviction for price moving higher. Yeah, and this is where for a newer student, they see this type of profile and they feel like they have to force themselves into this. This is not something you want to force yourself inside of. I mean, it's heavily manipulated. You want to be inside of days where it's clearly one-sided, it's easy to see a draw on liquidity, and it's just more or less a trending day. You're not always my platform. You're not always going to get that, but if you can, that would be my advice. I don't know if you can hear that. Probably not, because I have the audio muted on my computer, but my platform makes this loud-ass dinging noise, just randomly. If we collapse underneath this inefficiency here, I may not even touch price today. This is wonky. I've had a Mac before. I don't like Macs. Macs don't allow you to do many things. Windows are superior. quant hour. Like, if anything, I would probably prefer it to move higher at this point, just so we can get out of this range. Because you fall back into this range, I mean, anything could really particularly happen. I mean, we've generated a lot of buy side here. But again, if we collapse underneath this inefficiency, we collapse underneath that order block, and it's just sloppy conditions. Terry, I saw your message on it, my bot. Or maybe you retracted, I don't know. Seek and destroy day after accumulation day, I don't get it. It's just, sometimes that'll happen, man. It's not the end of the world. I mean, again, pay attention to what I'm doing here. I'm constantly going out these higher time frames. I'm looking at it. I'm going, all right, well, if we were to gravitate higher today, how would price look? How would it look like? I'm trying to visualize that. I'm trying to predict what the closes would look like. Of course, you can't always be accurate, but I don't particularly see this thing just moving off higher. Do you take this buy trade? No, I don't. If I'm going to take a trade, you're all going to see me take the trade. Yeah. I mean, just look at the hourly will always give you some type of, hourly is really great for, like, if you're looking for a type of directional day. When I look at this hourly, it's really sloppy. Like, that is, it's not great. Yeah, right, Nico. Yeah, I have the hourly Sibi drawn. We've already stabbed up into it once. What's an indication for a seek and destroy day? And sometimes you may be in seek and destroy for a little bit, and then it'll move out into a trending day. It's a little bit harder to predict, but what are the kind of the profiles and indications of that? Well, if you're taking out both sides multiple times, it's more or less a seek and destroy day. I mean, look at the open, what we did with CPI. We dropped lower, taking out sell stops. Gravitate higher, taking out buy stops. We dropped lower now, taking out sell stops. We gravitate higher, taking buy stops. That's a nasty profile. Yes, I know there's some people in here that are going to say that you could be doing this and that, but even for price to drop lower in here, I wouldn't immediately be just hunting shorts. The delivery, it should have, if we were to go short, if price was to continue off lower today, it should have done that in this dealing range here. It should have done that in here, and it should have dropped lower. Now we've engineered buy side. I don't make the market. I don't create these rule sets. I don't create these environments. So being upset about something like this today is, I mean, what can you really do about it? Can you explain why? Dude, that name is throwing me off. I know you said, it just, every time you type a question, I think you're asking 100 question marks. Could you explain why you didn't take a short in this retracement, in particular why it's replacing a premium? It's more or less time. Like, look at when we moved in. By the time Silver Bullet, if I'm waiting for the Silver Bullet is here, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. At that time, it's kind of proven to me that it doesn't really look right to move off lower. And if I'm uncertain, this is a little, I guess, framework or model. If I'm uncertain in something like this, from that dealing range high down to the low, the price moves into the premium. If I'm uncertain that it's going to drop lower from it, then I can just elect to wait for price to prove itself to me. I can elect for it to drop lower, and I could find some type of entry pattern at the lower portions to then go short. If I'm uncertain. If I'm very certain, then I can go short in that premium. But if not, like this instance, especially when you're rolling into silver bullet, it's not really proving itself to me that it wants to move lower. Then I can just elect to wait / do nothing. Yeah, we do have one news event driver tomorrow, which is the 30-year bond auction. I believe that's at like noon or 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I think core PPI is another major. Like if CPI doesn't move the market and you have another major news event driver like core PPI, it's probably waiting on that. Nico, yeah. What made it uncertain? I mean, it was not respecting those inefficiencies. It was not willing to drop lower. So I just elected to sit out of it. CPI today, core PPI is on. I know they sound the same, but that's on Thursday. That's 5 red folders. Yeah, and even DXY is pushing up heavily higher. So it's, again, things are contradicting themselves. For those who don't use DXY, I mean, I suggest doing so. It's a huge indicator to me and when to stay out of setups, when to stay out of certain environments, because dollar index will indicate to you certain things for, especially with NQ. You don't want to be trading in the same direction as dollar index when you're trading NQ or ES or YM. You want to be trading oppositely. So look at where DXY is trading right now. I'm not trying to move in that particular direction. And sometimes, yes, they move in that direction for a little bit of period of time, and this is where people just, they're like, oh, screw it, I don't care about dollar index, and they disregard it. But to me, if dollar index continues to gravitate higher, I'm not going to want to long this. That's just my particular view. We saw that last week, as I explained before. I forget, sometimes I'm just talking about DXY, I'm on another monitor. DXY is, you don't need to pay for it. It's just type in the symbol DXY. It's going to be under TBC. Exactly, Tom. I mean, look at the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I've sat out on Monday and Tuesday. I didn't do anything. I go into every week thinking to myself, I'm okay if I don't take a single trade this week. I go into that mentality. If something doesn't pan out to my liking, then I don't take a trade that week. I know it's hard for some people to fathom, even yourself not taking a trade the entire week, but there's weeks where I've done that, where I didn't take a trade the entire week. But for the most part, there's always a trade in that week. Does it mean it's a winner? No. But gym time, not yet, actually. I still think there's a lot of time left on the day. Things can shake up by the end of the silver bullet. But currently, no. I'm not trying to force one way or the other. This is where a lot of people are wrestling with right now. They're looking at these concepts. They're looking at this inefficiency here, maybe the inversion of the buy side. They're trying to push longs. Some people are trying to push shorts. What's the best chess move on the board is to sit still. I'm not going to try to get caught up in that. Exactly, Tom. It does. You're the only person forcing yourself to do these things. Nobody else is forcing you to take a trade. Nobody else is forcing you to obviously do anything. It's always yourself. So give yourself the relief that, hey, man, I don't have to take a trade this week. I don't, even today going into the session. And ironically, when you take that pressure off yourself, you'll probably end up getting into a trade because you're not forcing anything. It's just like, oh, like there's my setup. Okay, there's everything meets my criteria. Okay, now I enter the market. Noon, I mean, if you want to utilize them, utilize them. I don't utilize them. I have plenty of experience with them, so I'm not unexperienced with moving averages, but they don't move the market. Abraham, very good. It is a muscle. You have to exercise it. You have to be willing to stretch out that patience muscle. And how do you do that? Well, you sit through certain sessions that obviously are not high probability for you, and you're able to sit through it. And if you don't have the discipline to do so, the best thing to do is just to log off. Like, if you can feel yourself, like right now, you have a lot of emotions. You feel tempted to do something. You feel a lot of, FOMO or fear or tilt, whatever it is. It's best just to walk away. I promise you it's going to be here tomorrow. Everything's going to be fine tomorrow, even the next day. Even if tomorrow looks like this today again. I mean, again, it always repeats. The good high probability setups always repeat. These bad environments do repeat, and that's where you have to have the skill set to be able to sit out of it. How many trades do you take a week? I mean, it just depends. Some weeks I can take one trade, and that's all. Ideally, that's all I want to do. I want to take one trade a week, and this is where I was thinking to myself last night in my bed. I think a lot of analogies on my own just to give to the stream, but some days you may have to show up to work, like trading. I may have to show up to these charts 3-4 times a week, and all I have to do is work one time, meaning I take one trade and that's it. Ideally, that's my best situation. Ideally, I think that's, for most people, that's what you would want to do. Some days I have to just go to work one time on a Monday, and I take my trade and I'm done for the whole week. That's a very difficult task to do because most people end up giving all that back by the end of the week. Most of the time, I'm probably taking a trade on a Wednesday or Thursday, so I have to show up at least 3-4 times a week to work, and then all I have to do is work, quotation, once to get my trade set up. Julian, yeah, I mean, you can call it time distortion, you call it whatever. I mean, I'm just looking at this as if I had to grade an environment currently, I would grade this a pretty low grade. Like, what's the point of trying to force something in here? I just don't see the upside to that. Aiden, or ADE, everything gonna be fine tomorrow. Thanks for the dimes. Yep. Daniel, exactly. I talked about it yesterday. Most people, if you look at these payouts from prop firms, I mean, most people, yeah, they take like three to 6 trades a month, and they get the most payouts. They're the ones who define all the odds, but yet social media tells you should be trading every day. It's like, well, obviously there's a contradiction there. I want to look at facts. I want to look at what actually works. And obviously taking very low amount of trades, very low engagement works. That's what gets payouts. No, James, I do not trade these PM Silver Bullet. Especially for a newer student, I've talked about this before. You think you're much better than you actually are. And having humility and humbling yourself and realizing, like, even if you had a really good winning streak, you're really not that good, man. And I'm not saying that even myself, because once you humble yourself, you realize, all right, well, I probably shouldn't be engaging that much. I shouldn't be trading multiple sessions. I shouldn't be trading multiple pairs, because all that's doing is inducing yourself for more risk. And more than likely, you're probably going to give, if you trade in the AM, you win, and you go like, all right, cool, I'm going to go back in the PM. You're probably going to give that back, more than likely. And cool, if you win again, I mean, at one point or another, it's going to bite you in the ass, especially if you're a newer student. It's not a good thing to do. Yeah, exactly. So if we do gravitate higher, I'm really probably not going to be doing anything if we do. But if we do, obviously the buy side here would be the drawn liquidity for now. I buy turtle soup at low of news after I mean, you're not wrong. Again, everybody has their own style and their own personality. Would I have done it? No. Does that mean I'm wrong and you're wrong? No. Yeah, Bryce, but it wasn't a breaker until we closed here. It's still not. There's a lot going on. I don't want to have this much annotations, but that last up close candle could be a breaker. In order for me to really trust a trending day like higher on the bullish side, I would need dollar index to really move off lower. Because even if we take buy side here, it doesn't mean that I missed the entire move. There could very well continuously be a setup. You know, price just continuously moves off higher. Then I can still find a setup. But I have to determine that. I have to see, all right, are we just going to take buy side and drop lower in here, or are we just going to continue higher? It's harder to determine on a seek and destroy day. When I just look at all these premium arrays and everything above price, there's just not too much to target. So I'm trying to determine that. Yeah, this is what you could call like a wedge pattern, more or less. It's, to be honest, I don't know the correct terminology. Something like this or something. If we do reach higher, I mean, buy side's resting there. But when I look at higher than this, I mean, only thing I see is that inefficiency there and that one there. And you have to ask yourself why. Anytime you get into a setup, why is price doing this? Why is it trying to gravitate towards it? What's the logic behind it? Is there a reason for it? Right now, I just, when I look at higher time frames, I look at everything else, I don't see a particular reason for price gravitating higher. Again, I could be dead wrong and obviously be incorrect, but there's not enough evidence for me to just push a long continuously throughout the day in here. The logic doesn't make too much sense to me. Do I believe in the 10? I think that's a made-up macro. If ICT has never stated it, he's never taught it, it's a made-up concept. So what am I doing? I'm going all the way back out to a weekly. I'm looking at it, trying to gauge, all right, what is it really trying to do? If you're wondering why we're having this nasty price action yesterday and today, I mean, look at the range that you're kind of in. We're inside of this dealing range low, technically that high there. I'm just looking at where the bodies are closing. But you're stuck inside of that range, right? The price is just kind of bouncing back and forth. So if the macro perspective is a consolidation, you're going to expect lower time frames to be even worse. I don't know why. There we go. There's 735 of you in here. If you could like the video if you haven't already, I would appreciate it. So do I feel any type of way, like if you're thinking to yourself in here, like, damn it, man, like, I didn't take it long, I missed this move. Would I have taken a long in here? No. So even though price moved, it's just nothing in here I would have taken. There's a clear distinguish between missing moves and simply price moving. That's it. What up, Inner Circle J? Yeah, I see the 4-hour Sibi. This is resting here. What about the simple reason for going by? Yeah, of course. But I'm just looking at it from a narrative perspective. I'm looking at just overall. Oh no, we tagged buy side. So from here now, I mean, we still have a lot of time. Like 30 minutes is a lot of time. I'm trying to determine from here, is this going to be some type of trending day? Meaning, like, for the rest of the day, is it going to gravitate higher? If I see another drop lower in here, I would prefer it to be a trending day. I don't want to see it drop lower. I mean, that's the profile is heavily manipulated. So we have the larger SIBI up here. So if price wants to gravitate higher, that would be the next draw in liquidity overall. You can refine everything from that 1 hour, which I'm going to do currently. So NQ is actually the sixth sister in this instance because ES is higher than NQ. Yeah, I mean that's another thing that makes me weary of this whole thing is dollar index is still gravitating relatively higher, not particularly in a good mannerly fashion, but and these are things that you're going to wrestle with internally is especially if you haven't taken a day or a trade in a few days is when price starts moving like this and you haven't taken a trade or if you've taken a couple losses in a row, this is where it starts to weigh on your confidence. It starts to weigh on you as the analyst. You start to doubt yourself. You start to doubt your model. So what you want to do is you want to force something to reconfirm to yourself that you know what you're doing. And that's the last thing you want to do because that's not the correct thing to do. Especially when you take a loss or you haven't traded. What you're trying to do is, especially when you take a loss, you're no longer trading the logic that's laid out for you. You're simply trading to make back a loss. So think about that. You're not trading your logic, the model, the things that laid out for you. You're trading simply the P&L. You're trying to make back that money with no real logic. And that's the same thing if you haven't taken a trade that can weigh on you. It takes a lot of patience and discipline to sit still for a while because a lot of times it can weigh on you, especially in hindsight. You be like, man, I could have entered there, could have done this today. But in real time, everything's different. And B, if it's not aligning with your model, it's not aligning with the things that are good for you, then you didn't miss anything. You have to constantly remind yourself. It's why I say it all the time, because it reconfirms to me that I'm doing the right thing. You have to be your biggest cheerleader, your biggest supporter, because nobody else is going to do it for you. Everybody else is going to laugh in your face and say you're stupid for not taking a trade. And this is where confidence comes into your own self, your own system, is just be like, you know what, man, I'm doing the right thing here. I know my model like the back of my hand. I know the conditions that I'm supposed to be participating in. And if they're not presenting themselves to me, I'm not going to operate in it. And that just takes a great deal of confidence and conviction within yourself. If you don't have that, obviously you just have to lean on somebody else's or have enough experience and time on probably paper trading, tape reading to get that. And this is what I'm looking at as well as I'm trying to determine, did we just take buy side and price is going to drop lower in here? It could do that. So I'm trying to determine that. If the overall higher time frame, when I look at the macro perspective, if everything was aligning for higher prices, then this would make sense for me to want to continuously push long in here. It doesn't really particularly make sense to me. I could be dead wrong, but I just don't visualize price just moving higher. So I'll just leave it at that. Do you agree that feeling the market in a way of taking trades with logic and institution rather than hunters? No, Vaseline. I take trades with 100% logic and conviction. Of course, there's times where I use intuition, which is my subconscious, that I've trained over the years to help me discern whether it's, a right trade setup versus a bad trade setup. But more or less, when you trade these concepts, it's always logic. There's always logic behind everything that happens. When you take a loss, there's a logic as to why you took that loss. There's never a reason why it didn't do something. And that's a hard pill to swallow, but it's a good reality, because anytime you take a loss, especially with me, when I take a loss, I can always go back in hindsight and probably understand what I did wrong. It doesn't mean that I can never unsee losses. I can never undo losses, because it happens. We're humans. Even with these concepts, as accurate as they are, whether you believe it or not, you're still going to take losses. You're a human. You're going to read it incorrectly. You're going to do the wrong things. So, do I like TT trades? No comment. Do I use hypnosis to train my subconscious? No. There is no logic. You can build a logic for whatever happens in these markets. Sure. What is EHPDA? I think you mean IPDA. That is the name of the algorithm. Hypnosis, yeah, I've never heard of that one. I mean, if it works for some people, sure, but I'm not into all that. I'm not into that hippie stuff. All you need is God, my friend. Event horizon, yeah, if that's what you're referring to. I mean, I don't utilize it. I think it's a little too much. $15-minute closure would give me some insight to whether or not we're going to continue higher, in my personal opinion. Yeah, the reason the 15-minute is a framework. It's definitely a good time frame to look at in terms of structure and what you're looking at. The reason I'm sorry, I know you can't hear, but my platform does that dinging. I have to turn it off. The 15-minute time frame, if this has a closure above it, that would be a decent indication that price would at least want to move higher. Julian, I think that he has a video on his YouTube channel. Event Horizon, I wouldn't personally suggest it. I know very well about it. You're taking the basically equilibrium between current new week opening gaps and old new week opening gaps. You extend out to 50%, 25%, 75% levels. That is your event horizons. It's a little much for me. That's the reason why I like the indicator of new week opening gaps, is I can just turn them on and off all the time. Because if I can't see my chart clearly, there's too much. Do you think it's more fun to stream when you trade? No, it's not. Why do you do it then? I mean, yes, I do enjoy it. Particularly, I like teaching. I enjoy teaching. I would elect to believe, it sounds boastful, I would like to believe I have a gift for it. It's from what I've seen from my audience, and I enjoy doing it. There's just times where obviously it has negatives to it. Pros and cons. Yeah, I saw that, Jillian. It's sad to see. System is broken. Yeah, well, I mean, I think if I moved into a more private platform, I enjoy it a lot more. It's just, publicly, it can be a bit much. Yeah, more or less, I just miss being privately by myself at times. That's all. Manny? Yeah, I mean, that's all right, my friend. I mean, it happens all the time. Like, I'm not going to sit here and put you down on it. It's happened to me so many times. The only thing you can control is your frequency and your risk that you utilize. So you have to be, you're the one in control of that. The market's not in control. That's where all your power comes from. All of my power comes from the amount of times I engage with this market and the amount of risk that I utilize. That's the only thing that I have in my power and my control. Everything else is outside of it. So I have to be able to manage that very, very well. Egg Boy, I appreciate it. Nico, yeah. I mean, I understand your viewpoint. I think if you just look at it objectively, just from like logical motivations and things like that, I think he has some good things to say. Again, I'm not going to get into a discussion. Stay Tega, I have XRP, but I don't really focus on crypto. Let me see if that's true. It hasn't touched the 4-hour yet, even on both contracts. And I don't feel any type of way about it, even though prices moved. I mean, there wasn't a lot of entry points today. And I don't think a lot of things, even in hindsight, you could beat yourself on big. Man, I should have entered in here and should have done this or that. I don't feel any type of way about it. I think it would have been pretty damn difficult to get inside of it. This is where, again, I know it's a broken record over and over again, but I don't feel any type of emotions when I don't miss out. Like, my model doesn't appear and the conditions aren't right. Even in hindsight, where I could see, like, yeah, we react off this fair value gap, the inversion, we moved higher. That's just, even in real time, that's not what I was particularly thinking, nor do I find that high probability. Exactly, algo trading, which I know a lot of people when they come to me, it's it's what they learn is, and I've showcased, is you really only need to take one trade setup a week. If you can find that in a high probability environment where you can run for 50, 75, 100 handles, of course with partials and everything taken in consideration, that's the ideal world. Is it worth keeping both contracts on to refer back to? Yeah, I mean, once we really switch over to June, I mean, the volume's switching back over really into June's contract. But I mainly look at the continuous contract. I know for some people, even ICT, it's recommended, but it's always worked for me. And if you look at the silver bullet in its entirety today, it's really between this time zone. I mean, it's not that great. Oh my goodness. Was ICT trading March or June? June. When you're in a consolidated state, especially on higher time frames, the lower time frames can really, they can be difficult to trade because you think it might turn into a trending day and it just will reverse on you. I'm just being very cautious of that. Dollar index is still moving higher. Do I really want to push longs in here? I don't really know. Yeah, everything that I'm talking out loud about is really what would be going through my head. It's like, if when I look at the daily time frame, again, we're consolidating, basically trapped inside of a dealing range, just moving back and forth. So anytime in consolidated states on lower time frames, you're going to see this breakout, and you think it's going to continuously keep pumping higher, and then it'll just reverse on you. It's really a difficult condition or profile to trade in. Accidental. Yeah, I mean, Austin, I know you probably answered this 100x. I already. You're all right, man. Do you have a certain risk percentage per trade, in particular RR? I mean, in terms of risk, like I'll just use this as an example for like a forex prop firm or just in general. Let's say I was trading a $100,000 account. I want to be risking anywhere between 0.5% to 1%. And in terms of RR, I mean, it depends. Every setup is unique. I particularly want to look for, if I'm gauging my setup in the draw liquidity, I at least want to do 1 to 2, at least something that's going to double my risk. But sometimes it does more than that. It exceeds more than what I'm thinking, and I just have to kind of roll with it. That's why taking partials always helps, because sometimes it moves further than I think. Sometimes it doesn't move as far as I think. So I'm more discretionary, meaning like I move off of what price is giving me in the moment when I'm in a position. I want to see what is price respecting, how far is it moving, how fast is it moving, what's the time. And that's why taking partials is key for me, because I'm constantly just deciphering how far price is moving, etc. Jabbers, yeah, I mean, even getting a bias wrong, like today I didn't anticipate higher prices, but does that mean that I'm not profitable? No, I didn't take a trade, so nothing really happened. Even if you take a loss and your bias was wrong, I mean, it is what it is. Just learn from it. Your path to becoming a profitable trader lies not in the better understanding the market, but better in understanding your mind. Exactly. It's. I mean, they go both hand in hand. But I believe you're going to be. If I had to put all my chips, technicals are all my chips on psychology in terms of which one's going to be more profitable. It's going to be always in psychology. You could be a market wizard. You could be a technical wizard, but still screw all of it up. So. Lord of Stars, it's the sell side that's resting underneath price, especially with dollar index rising. It contradicts it. It's a reclaimed order block in a weekly time frame. That's really the only thing I have. When I look at a daily time frame, there's really nothing in that same area. We've now built relative equal lows, so it makes me weary of the idea of trying to push for that. Like, it doesn't make logical sense. Last week it made logical sense to continuously look for higher prices because there's a weekly bullish order block, reclaimed daily 4-hour or daily BISI 4-hour, etc. Yeah, my time is 10:50. It's New York local time. When do they change it? Sunday. Yeah, I'm looking at the weekly profile too, Tom. I mean, I don't believe Monday's the low of the week. For a high probability setup, you always want to know whether if you're working within, if the high of the week has been set, the low of the week has been set, and you're working within that framework. I don't see the high or the low of the week set yet. So this more or less, I mean, where am I going to enter into? Am I going to chase this? Am I just going to buy this? No, that's stupid. On days where you feel like this, I mean, we've talked about this analogy. The bus comes around. When days where the bus just leaves and it didn't open up its doors, it will always come around the next day. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with being able to switch a bias and being fluid with it. I know some people put a lot of emphasis on that, but it's not what creates a profitable trader. Caddy Pan, I would like to believe I'm not going to do anything today. I mean, we're already 50 minutes into the silver bullet, and it's sloppy ass delivery. Thank you, Lord. This is where being stubborn sometimes it can be a good thing, because I'm not trying to particularly chase this long. I don't see it when I look at the higher time frame and I'm looking at it. I don't see it doing that. I'm being stubborn on it. Of course, there can be a con to it, but no, Muhammad. I don't trade PM session. I've mentioned this many, many times. Jeff, not to be negative here, but the morning you thought it was going lower to take that liquidity. Why did you not consider the liquidity on the high side? It's just because that's not what I was considering. And being right or wrong in terms of analysis, I don't put a lot of emphasis on that. Did I take a trade on that? No. So it particularly doesn't mean much to me. ESS, do you find trading harder in summer months? It just depends. Hey, but not taking a trade as a win? Yeah, I mean, that's the way I view it, but accidental actually stretching out your quads. Or hanging from like a pull-up bar. No, you're actually, if you look at your muscles and the way they're intertwined, it's kind of crazy. Silver bullet ends technically in 4 minutes. Accidentally, yeah. Even me, I mean, I feel old, man. Like, in terms of my body, it's always back pain, something. I'm gonna hate to get older. I cherish it now. I'm 24, I'll be 25 here in about a month or so. 2 months. I know. I've already seen it. I mean, I know I'm young, but it's still, I feel it every day. Accidentally, yeah. I know there's a couple in here. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of older folks. I say older. '86. Your profile picture does not look like you're '86. If you are, no, there's no way. Alex, I've never been so happy to see an activity like this from a professional like you. Finally happy to sit on my hands. Thank you for teaching. Thank you. I appreciate it. I know it is hard. I'm not saying this is easy to do. It's difficult to want to sit on your hands and not do anything. It's hard, man. But it's the best option. Yeah, I suddenly feel young. Question for the older folks in here. When did you feel like you were in your prime? I'm always curious. Like what age? 25, 26, 30, 33, 25. Okay, so I'm right in my prime. I gotta take advantage of it. Yeah. 25. I would just call it a day, noon. I mean, that's it basically for me. I know it sucks. I know you want to do something, you want to participate, but just log off, man. Go enjoy your day. Anytime I drink an energy drink, I'll be in my prime. 25 to 30 was a prime, Brett. Yeah, I feel like it is. Maddie, I appreciate it. It's cool to see a lot of older folks in here. I mean, I probably resonate more with all of you. To be honest, I don't. I feel it sounds boastful. I feel more mature than I really am. I think trading has done that to me. I can't relate to a lot of people my age. I think that's because a lot of priorities and people my age are just backwards. They're not focused on this. Accidentally, yeah. That's that, dude. I love lifting, man. It's number one. Next to trading, that's probably my most favorite thing to do in the day. It's like I look forward to it. Change gym to swim. I've heard swim is very good for you. Rage harder depends on what you mean by prime. Just different stages. 28 to 32 was awesome pre-kids. Now I have 3 and it's different. Yeah, I guess I can't relate to that, but I get what you're saying. Jabbers, yeah. I mean, I know we're talking in the chats, good combos, but as far as technicals, I mean, there's just nothing I'm going to do in here. We're at the end of the silver bullet. We have about 9 minutes left within the macro. I don't want to flip the coin, right? That's not what we want to be doing here. I don't want to flip the coin and be like, all right, are we going higher or are we going lower? If we talk about what I've always talked about is the court case and making a evidence for both sides, I mean, as far as looking for lower prices, that's probably what I'm just going to stick with. I want to see 1877 traded to at one point or another throughout the week. I don't see higher prices. I don't want to get caught trying to long this and it collapses lower and I go against my overall bias. If it dips into here, whatever inefficiency is, and we fly higher, I mean, then so be it. And then I'm stubborn and I'm stupid and whatever. It is what it is. I didn't take a trade, so I mean, what can you really do? Crazy Eddie, have a good day, brother. Yeah, I mean, in all reality, this is where just going back in hindsight and kind of cheerleading yourself in your own journal, what ICT says, and I really recommend it because it really does help program yourself. Like I used to not do this. I used to beat myself up all the time in my journal, but going back inside of your journal and then looking at the silver bullet, like look at this 1 hour window. Even though we can see like, yes, there was a setup quotation in here, it's not something that I was predicting, nor would I really ever take it. So in reality, I didn't miss anything. I did the right thing by not participating. If I went long in here and I got lucky, that would be a net negative to me because I'm breaking rules and discipline. So you have to cheerlead yourself and be like, you know what, I did the right thing today. I sat still. I didn't do anything. Doesn't mean the concepts are broken. Doesn't mean the algorithm's broken. It just means that more or less when you look at the higher time frames, we're in a consolidated state. We're not doing much. And if you are overall wrong, then whatever. You can always get back in line with price and take a trade. Even if you do miss your setup, you do miss your model, there's always going to be another one. So, I mean, the best option, as I always talked about, is staying patient, staying disciplined. I showcased that last week when everybody was freaking out. Monday and Tuesday. I mean, it's been a theme the last 2 or 3 weeks. I haven't taken a trade on Monday or Tuesday. And then come Wednesday, Thursday, I end up taking a trade and everything's fine again. Everything's sunshine and rainbows and the algorithm's back. You're back. It's like you just have to lean on that experience. You have to lean on that and remind yourself of most of the time I don't take a trade on Monday or Tuesday. And I'm okay with that. I'm content with it. So why do I trade within this time zone window? Because I do find it on days where it is good. It's a very good window to trade in. MS, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, I'll sit in here for another 5 minutes. I just want to see what by the end of this macro does. But overall, I'm not going to take a trade. I don't. If I was to trade PM session, let's just say hypothetical, I'm not. But let's say I was. The only thing I'd be looking for is lower prices. I'm stubborn on that idea. There's times where I can be fluid and I'll be willing to change my bias. But something like this where the sell side is too much for me. We built up even more now. It's just too much. At one point or another, especially like this, it's going to want to gravitate towards it. So trying to force a long setup in A, consolidated state, and B, where there's a lot of sell side. C, we've already taken buy side. So why would it want, you have to think, what's the logic behind that? Why would it want to gravitate towards buy side? What would be the reasoning for it? It could want to return into the premium array in here, but it doesn't have to. It does not have to do that. So the best option is sticking with that one side, being stubborn on the narrative and saying, I'm only electing to look for shorts. If I don't get the setup, I don't do anything. And it protects you. Because if I'm being too fluid, then I'm just changing my bias too much. And you all have seen me do that, obviously, with correct logic and criteria to it. But Something like today, it's just too manipulated. There's too much stuff going on for me, too much uncertainty. I don't want to do anything. Yeah, Nico, I mean, if you all want to collab, if you're not going to end up joining the private group, again, I would suggest doing so. I'm not trying to sell any of you on it, but if you've seen the value here, you're gaining something from it, and you still don't feel as if you're at where you're at, I mean, the price for it, I mean, I'll just say it, it's $200 for 3 months. I mean, that's literally nothing. I made it for that particular reason, to help people that maybe are not as fortunate to have the money, but of course, I still have to put a value or a price tag on it. So, I mean, if not, that's cool too. I have no hard feelings. You guys can discuss that at whatever later points. What's the green line? That is the current new week opening gap there. Where do I join the price? It'll be all released Friday. So all the information will be out Friday for all of you. Yeah, I mean, I'm just, people think that I did a lot here publicly. I mean, I'm just going to amp it up in a private group, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to be live streaming every single day. Saturdays will be a live stream for psychology. Daily logs are going to be posted. I'll have my own personal framework, models, the things that I utilize. Not to say that that's an end-all be-all. Of course, you have to utilize in real time. There's going to be some, you'll have personal access to me. And that's kind of the main point, is where I'll be able to answer questions more privately. And if you have something that you want to talk about, we can talk about that off stream. AB text, yes. Igor, yep. It'll be a lifetime. No, I was considering making a 6-month. I don't think I'm gonna do that, just because of I just don't want to be trapped in something for too long, to where if I change my mind and I just I want to end it when everybody's done, then we'll just do that. So we'll just take it 3 months at a time. Discord accidental, which I still have to kind of test a few things on there, but I got to make sure that nothing can really get leaked, stuff like that. $190 a banana. Yeah. Okay, I mean, if I just decided to leave, I mean, sure, but I don't see myself. I'm just talking relatively realistically. I just want to take it 3 months at a time, because I mean, I'm not gonna be like, sign up for 10 years. I mean, that's unrealistic. Things change. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be same schedule. I'm still gonna be live streaming all the AM sessions. All of them are gonna be recorded. PM, I mean, I might toss a few in there for tape reading purposes. Like, I'll go overboard. I'm always a person that's, over delivered on things, so that's something I would want to do. I mean, it doesn't mean I'm going to be trading in it or I promote it, but if I can, just for teaching purposes, I'll do that. Yeah, and that's something, I mean, even through this chat, I've seen the community being built. Like, a lot of you talk to each other as if, you're already in a community, which is good. And I'm going to have a few other people that I've been with for a while that will be in there, that's more experienced, that I've personally have mentored, and they'll be in there to help all of you if I'm not there. So you're going to have another support community, people for you as well, besides myself. Accidental, yeah. I mean, I'm going to log off here. That's going to be it for today. I hope you guys all enjoyed. I know it's a boring session. I know it can be very redundant, repetitive. It's not fun, but it's the reality of trading sometimes. It just is. And if you feel some type of way about it, I mean, or you feel like, I'm not doing enough, or I should be taking trades, I mean, I'm not the right mentor for you. I'm not somebody you should be watching. It's not my style. It's not what I'm going to force myself in a corner to do. So, yeah, with that being said, I hope you all have a good rest of your day. Until then, peace.